We are officially live, broadcasting only on onedealaway.com/live. My name is Nev. This is Money Matters, and today we're talking a little bit about scams, about markets, and about what in the world is going on with the tech stuff, with the oil stuff, with the stuff, and is it positive? Is it negative for the service economy? We are hearing news that the service economy is starting to grow again, which is kind of positive and exciting if you ask me personally. We're also going to look at some of the exciting tech news that I was able to locate and find for you, as well as some of the scams that are coming out of some of these tech stuff. And the order we do the scams for is so that you can stay protected and safe and secure. So, we do have quite a bit of show. I do want to welcome everybody watching this live on onedealaway.com. Feel free to sign in, say hello, and we're going to do Q&A at the end of the show as always. For everybody else watching this elsewhere, like YouTube, maybe Facebook, or somewhere else, make sure you hit the like button right now. Do subscribe, hit the bell button if you can, get some notifications out so that you get notified every time a video shows up, because you never know what we're going to stumble on and how that is going to help you preserve and potentially increase your wealth. Let's do this. All right. Good morning and happy, what is it? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you. Time flies when you are having fun, for sure. So, what is going on in the world of tech and everything else? Well, there's a very, very exciting piece of a bit of information. You know how these puppies can do all kinds of cool things? And one of the cool things that they can do and that they do is give us ability to, well, communicate with others, call folks, text folks, jump on social media, find next restaurant that is out there, give reviews, check our email, and of course, transfer payments. Yes, you likely know of, I would say that they're giants by this point, things like PayPal, right? And so PayPal owns Venmo. I don't know if you know of Venmo, but Venmo is a way to sort of transfer funds between users or between, business and a user and that kind of stuff. So it gives us ability to sort of split the payments. But, there's also ways where you can pay the companies and donate and that kind of stuff. And of course, I am one of the individuals that does that. I have one of those puppies. And this is an exciting piece right here. Now, Venmo, which basically is owned by PayPal, already offers MasterCard branded debit card, and it announced a year ago that it was planning to launch its first credit card as well. Well, Venmo credit card is a Visa card that offers personalized rewards and 3% cash back on eligible purchases, and the card comes in 5 colors, including the user's own Venmo QR code on the front. It also integrates with Venmo, allowing customers to track their spending and make payments from the mobile app. The card is currently available to select Venmo users, and there are plans to launch the rest of the US in the coming months. This is pretty exciting if you ask me personally. And, I don't know if I'm going to like jump on it or not, but I think it is kind of useful and kind of cool place, because if that's the way that you're sort of earning money, right? Then it gives you an access to be able to sort of spend it and track it and do kind of stuff. And there is a good reason why you might want to connect your credit card to Venmo or things like Cash App, because we do have information. The Cash App, well, scammers have been using it to steal your money. What in the world is going on? Well, here it is. Here it is. Better Business Bureau is saying that scammers are using Cash App to steal money from victims. How does it work? How do they do that? Let's learn, not so we can steal, so that we can protect ourselves. And there are some useful tools and tips. So this is important piece, absolutely important for you to watch and understand. According to the Better Business Bureau, Scam Tracker involves the popular Cash App. The BBB says scammers are finding ways to abuse users' unfamiliarity with the fairly new payment tool. People basically request payment through the Cash App. When you send it, you end up being immediately blocked and they take your money. So here are some of the examples of what's basically, and of course they're trying to target the audience that is not very familiar with the whole process. So here's kind of how it worked. For example, one target recently told bbb.org scam tracker that um, um, after falling for a tech support scam, they were targeted by the con artists to purchase bogus software through Cash App. Another victim tried to buy concert tickets from a seller who claimed only accept Cash App payments. I did not know what that was at the time, wrote the victim. I was told I could cancel the transaction anytime. I sent $350 for the tickets and was instant blocked. Another Cash App scam users need to be aware of involves fake customer support numbers. So you have a problem with the app, right? You go out there, you search online for help. The scam tracker has seen cases where people come across a phony number online, make a call, turn over their login information and or bank information, which is even worse, and end up getting tricked into sending money and losing the money that they have. So here are some of the tips that BBB is offering to protect yourself. And I think this is very, very important, not just for Cash App. I think this is very important for everything. So, first one, no one representing Cash App will ever ask you to sign in for your sign-in code over the phone or on social media. They're also never going to ask for a payment or to provide sensitive information, such as your full bank account information, right? So, if you get that stuff, red flag, hang up. Be skeptical of any business that requires Cash App payments. If a company claims to only accept Cash App and or prepaid debit card payments, be very worried. This is a red flag of a scam. Double check information before sending money. Verify recipient's name, Cash App handle, and information before sending any money. And make sure you link your money transfer app to a credit card. The reason for that is that if there's a challenge with the stuff that you don't get your stuff and use a credit card, you can always use the credit card call, and they will actually help protect by reversing and finding of what's going on, blocking things, and so on. Linking it to a debit card or to the bank account basically means once you send it, that's that. There is no protection, no safety, and so it is important. So for users that are following some of the gurus out there that are saying never ever use your credit card, this is incredibly wrong. I'm not saying run that credit card and let it ruin your life, right? We don't want to do that. But at the same time, you do want to be smart about what is going on, and you want to be smart about how to protect yourself. And using a credit card allows us to do that because we can reverse the payments and stuff, right? So excuse me about that. It's important to understand what can and cannot be done with certain methods. Now, speaking of Cash App and Venmo, which can be very much used to transfer payments to one another, to do business, to conduct stuff, to buy things, sell things, we're seeing more and more companies really getting into this whole, consumer methodology, consumer mentality, I guess would be a more correct term. And, you remember back when, Facebook was, really about connecting with folks. Now Facebook is all about ads and business. Instagram was posting, photos of your food. I remember that. And of your pets and the cute kids and that kind of stuff. And Instagram is now turning into, well, a glorified home shopping network. What in the world is going on? Over the past few years, Instagram users might have noticed that the app morphed from a place where you turn to see your friends' cute dog photos into a place where you turn to see those dog photos while also buying a lot of stuff you probably don't need. Any doubts about the platform's intention of becoming a glorified digital mall? The company announced that it's expanding its beloved in-app shopping feature to support IGTV, the company's version of YouTube, and Reels, the company's version of TikTok. Now, of course, it's primed for a rollout later this year, and IGTV creators worldwide can now use their clip to hawk merch to viewers immediately. So, if, say, a beauty guru wanted to share a video of their hashtag flawless makeup routine on IGTV, that video can now come saddled with a little shopping bag icon that directs viewers to a shop that's stocked with the products from that video. For creators and businesses, it's a new way to sell through the video stuff. Now, uh, something else. Yes, Instagram's pretty tight-lipped about the total number of people who regularly shop on the platform, but analysts from Deutsche Bank were able to extrapolate the data. The e-commerce on Instagram might rake in a combined $10 billion for the company by the end of next year, which is absolutely huge. Now, advertisers, of course, tend to follow consumers wherever they are, and this newfound online reliance might be one of the reasons why analysts projected that Amazon's ad revenue would spike by a good 470% over the next 3 years. Now, of course, they're all getting into the fight about who is the winner, who is the loser, who gets the most votes slash money, right? And all of it comes from users, both the creators as well as those that are watching the stuff. So this is one of those things that is kind of interesting of what is happening and transpiring right now. If you're thinking of Instagram, and right now is just for a few, you have to be sort of a verified user through the Instagram and that kind of stuff, and then you can use the in-app stuff. But you also might be able to link other things in your like to your profile, like your website and that kind of stuff. But typically, if folks have to click through multiple things, that's known as friction, which means you lose people over the course of the time. So they want folks to basically be using the in-app stuff. And the reason that the company also wants to use the in-app stuff, because it also gives them an opportunity to take a portion of what you sell, just like Amazon would. Speaking of Amazon and Facebook and Apple, here is some of the news that you likely have heard, and that is that the House panel is seeking to break up tech giants. So, what is going on? You likely have heard that there have been quite a bit of hearings, right? This is the clip from the hearings where they went before the Congress to talk about, are they basically monopolies, which I would say yes, and is that something that is okay? A House panel led by Democrats investigating competition in the technology sector is poised to propose sweeping reforms to block giants such as Amazon.com and Apple from both owning the marketplace and selling on their own products on them. The release has been delayed. Right, there's going to be a report that's going to be released, but it's delayed because of the last minute information regarding Facebook. So they're waiting for that stuff, and they were expected this week. Now they're saying it's going to be pushed back or pushed forward or pushed, whatever. The recommendation, which would represent the most dramatic overhaul of competition law in decades if approved, are the result of a year-long investigation by the House Antitrust Panel led by Democratic Representative David Cicilline, right? Is that how you would say that? So he's basically saying that his recommendation would include what has called a Glass-Steagall law for technology platforms and add some additional stuff to it. His proposal would prohibit tech companies from entering different lines of business and amount to a breakup of the companies. Amazon, for example, would be prevented from selling its own product on its marketplace, while Google couldn't own both the world's biggest search engine and YouTube. Apple would be barred from owning App Store and offering its own apps. Now, I'm going to pause this for a moment and talk about what does this actually mean. Well, it means that potentially, folks could actually be very bearish on these particular stocks, and the stock prices for these companies could potentially go down. On the long term, even if they have to be broken up, here is basically what would end up happening, potentially, right? I don't know for sure, but it is a possibility. So one of the things that is a possibility that could potentially happen is that the companies would basically go in and break it up. So Bezos would have Amazon, which would be sort of the marketplace, right? And then he would own, I don't know, Deep Forest or whatever, that would actually own the products that now he can list. So as far as the uh, productivity for him and the amount of money and that kind of stuff for him and his wealth is going to be completely unaffected potentially, right? There's some additional cost potentially with it, with splitting the employees and that kind of stuff. But overall, do not be worried about the owners and the individuals within the companies. What would end up happening is just that they would separate the companies and end up running the same thing, still benefiting both from the marketplace and from the selling of their stuff and all of the technology and everything else, unless the law specifically says that these companies could not be owned by the same individual, which I don't know how they would do that, right? You cannot prohibit me from owning multiple companies and those companies listing multiple products on multiple different platforms. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. So what I'm saying, short term, potentially bearish, long term, it really doesn't mean much of anything. God bless the regulators that are trying, but it doesn't really work. Or it's not going to work if we follow what has happened in previous industries like oil and that kind of stuff. Now, long term, yes, it potentially would have an effect where multiple individuals will own, so like if you think back to Standard Oil times, right? Or it's just as one giant oil company that end up having to be split into multiple ones, and then still the same guy owned all of them, so it didn't really matter. But eventually, those companies were sold, and so now we have, Shell and ExxonMobil, and that kind of stuff that is existing there. The draft report would also recommend legislation that would require the tech companies to allow users to easily move their data from one website to another. Federal and state antitrust enforcers are poised to file a historic monopolization lawsuit against Google. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission, FTC, is preparing a possible case against Facebook, and Amazon and Apple are facing inquiries by federal antitrust authorities. So, of course, this is where we are right now. As you know, later on this month, we do have a hearing. Well, we don't have a hearing. These guys have a hearing. The companies have a hearing with the government to talk about this stuff. So we'll see what that looks like. But is it possible that the breakout will be coming on the horizon? I think yes. I think yes. So that's kind of where the news is. Now, speaking of ExxonMobil and the oil companies and gas companies and stuff, we did receive a leaked document that is revealing that Exxon, you know how all of the companies are trying to be like carbon neutral or reduce their greenhouse gases or whatever. They're not green gases, they're greenhouse gases and that kind of stuff. Well, Exxon is planning to go the opposite direction. So, leaked document reveals ExxonMobil plans to increase carbon emission by 17% by 2025. Oil giant ExxonMobil plans to increase carbon dioxide emission over the next 5 years by 17%, which is more than the current emission of the entire country of Greece. Hello. The plan puts Exxon at odds with many of its peers, including fellow oil majors Royal Dutch Shell, BP, both of which are targeting net zero carbon emission by 2015. However, ExxonMobil is going the opposite direction. The oil and gas industry as a whole, including fuel emission from oil and natural gas based fuels, is the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. And as you know, greenhouse gases has already been proven scientifically that it does actually have a negative effect on the, well, planet Earth, right? And as that, all of us. ExxonMobil, on the other hand, hasn't committed to a net zero date. The leaked plan involves ramping up oil production, which will add about 21 million metric tons of carbon dioxide per year through 2025. It is worth noting that 21 million metric ton only represents the amount of additional carbon dioxide. The leaked document estimates total emission, factoring in the aforementioned reduction efforts, of 143 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2025. So, what is this going to do? Well, who the heck knows? Is this going to be bullish or bearish? It really depends on what you believe. And, if you believe that this is really good for the company, you're going to jump in and try to buy. If you believe that this is really bad for the environment, you're going to go out and sell. So we don't know exactly how this is going to roll out, how this is going to pan out. But with more companies going out and making electric vehicles, right? We've seen Tesla as sort of the leader. Then we had Nikola with the trucks, and that was a hot mess. Anyways, but we're seeing large, well-known companies like GM, like Ford. Nissan started that with the Leaf, right? And so we're seeing these guys all starting to switch to the electric vehicles. And I do see the future where electric vehicles will be the thing, right? And the gas station won't be a gas station anymore. They still will have to have it for a while, but I'm thinking long term. Gas stations are going to be things of the past, and so as will these, oil companies. Now, of course, you also may know that there are many homes throughout the United States that they heat through oil and natural gas. But oil is one of those things that is starting to be basically booted out because the emission of it is not as clean. And so places like Seattle, for example, as I learned from one of my students recently, is basically saying that if you have a house that is heating on oil, you actually have to switch it to either electricity or to natural gas. You can't have oil burning, way to heat yourself. So we're seeing more and more folks and more states and more areas starting to switch over. And with that happening, this potentially could spell trouble for not just ExxonMobil, but all of these giants. So we'll see how it all plays out. Personally, I don't think that that's a good direction to go in and increase stuff. I think increasing productivity and stuff, that's fine, but finding ways to actually improve how you do things and clean things up, that makes most sense to me. And in final news for today, we do have a very important piece that it is a bit on the bullish end, potentially right now. Who knows how it's going to turn out, because as I always say, it is 2020 and you never know, anything could happen. U.S. service economy grows again in September. So, the service side of the U.S. economy, retailers, restaurants, bank, hospitals, and the like, expanded in September for the 4 months in a row. Companies rose to 57.8% last month from 56.9% in August. And any number above 50 means more companies are expanding. But of course, 4 months. What are 4 months? Well, September, August, July. I can typically go forward, but I struggle with backwards, and June, right? So it makes sense. Well, what is June, July, August, September? Well, there are warm months. There are summer months. There are months where we want to go outside, we want to sit outside. So it makes sense. We want to try to travel. We want to, visit restaurants and retailers potentially, especially if we've been locked up and that kind of stuff. But as all of this stuff was outside. Now, a lot of these places are sort of, they have to shift to the indoor dining and indoor shopping and indoor stuff. And many people are not so comfortable with that. So I don't foresee this, kind of continuing on and happening. But then again, you let me know what you think. That's just what my belief is. The ISM survey of senior executives asks, is business has gotten better or worse compared to the prior month? This is how they basically got the results, the survey. But it doesn't reveal how much better. So they said, yeah, it's better. And it's like, is it, 0.5% better or 50% better, right? Those are important distinctions, in my humble opinion. Like, right, if I give you a penny, you are a penny richer, but does that necessarily make a difference in your life? I'm going to argue for most people the answer is no, right? So this is the part. So I'm like, well, has it increased? And you're like, yeah, it did. Technically speaking, you're not lying, but you're also not indicating of, how much it has gotten better. Index likely overstates how well the economy is performing. And here is basically what the graph is showing: the service economy of where we were in, March, and then May, June, July, September, right? So this is kind of where we are, which here it would put us back into where we were in, back in 2019, which says everything is normal. But is it really normal, right? Does that make sense? Well, let's look at it. The index of new orders dropped. The index of new orders dropped, rose to 61.5% for 56.8, and the gauge for production edged up 63% from 62.4. Right, this is the new orders and the production. The employment gauge climbed to 51.8 from 47.9, suggesting companies are adding more workers than they're letting go. But are they? That's a question that I have, because the news that we have is also here in the same report that says Disney, for example, and American Airlines and other large companies are permanently cutting thousands of jobs, not just thousands, tens of thousands, and combined they're cutting hundreds of thousands of jobs unless they get more aid from the government, which aid is not necessarily coming, and they're still cutting them regardless of it. Hollywood studios have also pulled back almost all of their content from October and November and moved it into 2021. This is coming from an entertainment executive. So we're looking at all of these news that are basically saying, wait a minute, this is not happening, it's not the real thing, and yet they're saying, well, wait a minute, it's getting better. People are hiring more than they are letting go, but we're getting all of these reports that people are still being let go. So it is a little bit of a confusing news, right? And on one hand, it's like, maybe companies that they have surveyed have said that it's getting better, but maybe there are companies that it's getting worse. Cruise lines are not going, hotels are sitting vacant, airlines are, barely functioning with, no middle seat and people not still flying. And when they fly, apparently they fight with each other over the face mask of who's wearing it, who's not. So restaurants, people are not visiting them as much, and the numbers are starting to go down. So there's all these different problems. And so for me, while it sounds kind of bullish looking backwards, of like, hey, it's better than March. Well, yeah, because March we were all locked up, right? And now we're not. But with the increase in the cases and stuff, I just don't see it happening, y'all. I just don't see it happening. And in the final piece, which I said it's a final piece, but the final piece, there's a news that Venezuela orders 71 tons of paper to print new banks worth 23 cents each. And here it is, the modern monetary theory, or what they call the magic money theory, is that nation which prints its own fiat money can never go broke, be insolvent, unless a political decision to do so is taken. And I think that might be completely wrong, because when you got to account for the exchange rate with other currencies and with assets, and if something costs 10 times more to purchase, is it because it's valued 10 times more, or is it that your money is 10 times worth 10 times less? That is an important question and a distinction that I think all of us should pay attention to and understand. Well, there you go. There you have it. That is the news for today. Slightly shorter show. My gosh, say that fast 5 times. But I think it was important nonetheless. Do me a huge favor, smash the like button, and do subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow if you're watching this elsewhere. For everybody watching this live on onedealaway.com, we're going to go into the Q&A. Everybody else, I will see you tomorrow. Until then, stay forever money blessed, and do remember, you are only one deal away.